What are you doing? Seriously, what are you... Oh! What up? Temp control! That's what we're talking about on this episode of Smoke Eaters. Hello everybody and welcome to Smoke Eaters. My name is Tony Sposit, right here talking about temp control today. Now this is more of an informational webisode for you guys out there. Some of you may be using temp control because it was explained to you at a vape shop and it's really nice. Some of you may have no idea what it is. Some of you may be experienced temp control people. That's okay. All we're doing is just covering the basics here. We're not building today, but we are covering the basics of temp control. So, temp control, what is it? It is essentially a dyno for your mod. That's how it works. It creates a curve as you vape to be able to bring in each piece of every puzzle and create this nice smooth vape all the way through. I do want to admit, it is not a cloud chasing kind of thing. If you're looking for clouds, stick with Canthol or Nichrome. If you're looking for flavor, you're in the place right here. What this is essentially a warp drive for flavor. It takes your coil and turns it into this amazing tasting vape that you have no idea what it is all about until you actually try it. But there are some safety precautions because that's what we're here to explain to you about today. So you can build any kind of atomizer you particularly want. 3 particular work with temp control, and that's stainless steel, nickel, and titanium. Personally, I prefer nickel. A lot of people don't like it because it's very difficult to build with. You can see here, I have a piece of 28 gauge here, I believe 28 gauge nickel. And as you can see, I can wrap this around my finger and have it hold its shape. It's malleable. It's hard to build with. I can crunch it into a ball and keep it right in front of me. I can stretch it all the way out, put my fingers through it, and now I got a perfectly straight piece of nickel. It's very difficult to build with, which is why a lot of guys don't like building with it. A lot of them prefer to build with Canthol. A lot of them prefer to build with titanium as it has a similar resistance to Canthol. However, I have tried stainless steel, I have tried titanium, and I have tried nickel, and nickel for me gives the best results. Now you have 2 ways of doing this. You can buy a spool of nickel like this and actually build in an RDA, which is very difficult, or to start off, which is what I suggest for you new users, you can buy nickel coils. This is specifically for the Aspire, Atlantis, V1, V2, and Triton. Now these do look a little different. I'll pull one out and show one to you here. You can see they have red rings around them. So the red rings indicate nickel. Blue rings are standard Canthol, and then there is a Claptonized version of this, which ends up being yellow. So that's a neat little feature that Aspire did, is they began to build different color rings to indicate what different pieces are. Various amount of devices that you can use. This is SimIU TC 60 watt mini. This is an IPVD2, and the one that I have set up to work with today is a Smoke Cooper Plus. Now, temp control is not actually temp control. Temp control is actually a series of mathematical equations that your that your mod does to get your atomizer to work. So, whether it's an RDA, a tank, whatever it may be, it's a series of mathematical equations. There's absolutely no temperature sensor in this coil whatsoever. There's no temperature sensor in any of this. So what it does is it breaks down a series of mathematical equations, just like warp drive. What it does is it essentially takes your vape and turns it from Deep Space Nine and back. It turns into this magnificent, fantastic vapor as my phone blows up as we talk, good Lord. So, let's kind of look at the equation of how it works. So, let's just say you want to set your temperature for 400. Alright? So, it's going to take and set up an equation. So, it's going to use the coil that you're using, which you have to set on these. So, let's use nickel. And it's going to take the amount of joules that you put into it. So, let's set it at 30 joules. And equal 400 degrees. So, what it does is it takes the power that you're going to put into it plus the coil plus the amount of joules, which is the curve that you're going to set it on, and equals 400 degrees. If you want a hot vape, you're going to set it up higher. If you want a low vape, you're going to set the joules down lower. And that's going to give you your build that you want. However, I can tell you, complex flavors in this taste magnificent. I can tell you right now, if you get one of those flavors that has 3, 4, 5 layers in there that may taste great in Canthal, try it in a nickel or temperature control build. It is going to be absolutely outstanding. Personally, I used Poseidon the first time I did it, and every single note was available. You could taste the cinnamon, the apple, the melon, the cantaloupe, whatever it was in there, you could taste it all the way through. It was absolutely a fantastic build, and if it's something you've never done, I suggest you try it 100%. However, there are a few safety notes I want to get to real quick. Safety notes! The big thing about nickel coil that you have to remember, or titanium for that matter, is that it has very low resistance. So the key in one build is that you're never going to have your wires touching. Like you would with a standard micro or macro coil. When you build the coil, you pinch them together and create this nice round little spring-like form. That's not going to happen. What you're going to want to do is create a separate area like this. This is a bigger version of what you're going to do. So it's going to be very separate every time you do it. It's never going to be touching. If it touches, it will short. Number 2, never, ever, 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 ever run a Canthal build in temp control mode, or never run a nickel build in wattage mode. It essentially will feed back the batteries in your mod, and your mod will either overheat or explode. Yes, I said explode. All of those stories you read online about people running, oh, I did Canthal in my temp control build and blah, 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 blah. I see it on the forums all the time. Don't do it. Just don't. All you're going to do is end up either ruining your $100 mod or end up ruining your coil and have to sit there and build forever. It is going to be a ginormous pain in your ass. Trust me. Just stick with what I'm saying here. I've done it. I ruined a mod. I was so upset after I ruined my mod because I didn't know what I was doing. And that is here what I'm teaching you guys about. The other thing that I have to tell you, and this is a big one, never dry hit or pulse a nickel, stainless steel, or titanium coil. In particular, nickel. When nickel begins to heat up, it begins to release a poison as long as it's dry. So what happens is it begins to emit a powder. It oxidizes and creates a powder on it. Right? When it creates a powder, that powder can become airborne and you can inhale it. When you inhale, when you wet it down, it becomes part of the vape. Therefore, you are now inhaling poison. Fun? No. Nickel poisoning is real bad, and you're going to end up having to have chelation at the hospital. So it's not a fun thing to do. Folks, just do me a favor, please. Just keep the coil wet. When you look at an atomizer like this, you can see this has a nickel coil in it. I have about a half a tank left. When I get down to about a quarter, I just rejuice it. Just put more juice in there to make sure that coil stays wet so you don't flip out. That's the big deal, especially when it comes to dripping on an RDA. Folks, I know some of you sit there and go, just keep hitting it, there's still juice left in the cotton. And that may be true with a Canthal build. Although I'm assuming those of you that do that go through a lot of cotton real quick. I don't know how you afford your cotton, but I'm just saying. When it feels like it and you get that little bit of a dry taste in your mouth, you all know what it feels like. Just rejuice it. Just put more juice on the cotton. Stop what you're doing and hit it. The thing is you may only get 3 to 4 hits out of a nickel build in temp control, whereas you'd get 5 to 6 out of a Canthal build. You got a few more hits, but it tastes better. Trust me, folks, it's worth it. Now, the other big thing that I wanted to really get on here is certain settings in here. Now, most mods have a setting, right? And we're going to do it here, particularly, I'll show you in particular, on an IPv-D2. So let's go down and take a look. So here we're looking at an IPv-D2, and you can see it has the white casing on it. But one of the more particular things is I want to fire it up and show you. This is currently in wattage mode. so you can see watt mode, how it's working, and everything like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it into temp control mode, right? So we're going to set it in temp control mode by clicking the button 5 times and selecting where it says system off, power mode. So now we're going to switch over to Joule mode. Joule mode is how we're going to run our temp control system. So we're going to click on Joule mode, and it's going to show us a unit of Fahrenheit temperature. You can change it from Fahrenheit to Celsius. For those of you who like Celsius, I'm going to stick with Fahrenheit. And we're going to set it at a current temperature of 449 degrees. So we're going to click next, and now we have the option to choose our coil. So you can see nickel, titanium. These are the 2 options on this one. Some of the newer ones have stainless steel. We're going to stick with nickel, and then we're going to exit to the menu. Now your atomizer is in Joule mode. You can see that it's running at 449 degrees at 49.0 joules. But I like it hot, but let's bring it down a little bit. So we're going to bring our joules down to right around 47.6. Okay? Now here's the key when you attach the atomizer. Okay? So here's my nickel atomizer. I'm going to attach it right onto here. This is a key for the IPv-D2, the D3, and any of the other ones that made by Pioneer for You. This doesn't necessarily work on the Smoke Cooper or my SMY, but this one is something that took me a while to figure out, and it is so simple, I felt like such an idiot. So now you click it on, you can see it hasn't read the atomizer yet, right? You can see it says it at 0.29, okay? That's about right. However, if you push the plus and minus buttons right here, it actually locks it in at 0.137. So now you've actually locked that coil in at that temperature, which is a very important part of this. Because if you run a nickel coil too hot, it burns your cotton. If you run a nickel coil too low, it does a whole bunch of other stuff. So right here is a key. Make sure check your atomizer, or check your instruction manuals to see if you actually need to lock in on your temp control mod. So now that we got our mod locked in, we're all set to go. Let's give it a good hit and see what it tastes like. Right in here we have Vintage the Seeker. I have it at 47.6 joules, 1.3 ohms, and running at 449 degrees. So let's give it a shot. Oh my, is that tasty. It might help if I opened up the air hole a little bit, but let's give it another shot. I can taste the pear. I can taste all the sweetness in it. I can taste everything back through it. That is a fantastic flavor chasing build. Let's take a look at this one as we have it set in temp control mode. This one, or temp control mode, on a nickel coil on a Smoke TF-V4. Now here's the thing about this, folks. This may seem a little awkward to you, but they do make nickel coils for this, and I have them. This is a bigger mod, so you're going to have to be careful about what you set, because when you set it, you have an option to set it hard, light, soft, max, whatever. So if you set it for hard, it's going to heat up real quick. So those of you who don't like hot vapes, you're going to want to check and make sure you have your right settings. I have in here Speed Vape Red Rocket, and you can also check out a review on Red Rocket and Finding Hemo on Smoke Eater's Vape on one of our review blogs. So here we go. Let's take a look. Oh, there's nothing like temperature control and nickel build, especially on days where those of you who may have just started, you're having trouble, you really want that cigarette. That may be an option. Is the temp control actually really helped me because I got the flavor out of it rather than just the smoke. Some days you really just want a cigarette and you just need to hit the vape hard. Some days you really want the flavor. So I would suggest having a nickel build. If you have one of these mods like this, I would suggest building a nickel coil, which is going to take a long time, folks. You're going to have a lot of reps. A standard Canthal build will be about 6 to 8 reps. A standard nickel build will be around 24 reps. So be advised, it's going to take a while to build, and it's going to take a little bit of headache to get it through. But nothing worth having is easy. So, on that note, I want to thank you for watching. Remember, visit smokeeaters.com. Support your local vape shops. Remember to keep up on the FDA bylaws. And remember, Smoke Eaters Vape, gear up and run hot.